Shabbat Shalom. We're on page 10. Words of welcome. How good it is to be together.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Nice to see all of you here in our sanctuary with us, those of you who are joining us through the electronic miracles of our day. This is a particularly important Shabbat. It is Shabbat HaGadol, known as the Great Sabbath. I'll have a thought about that a little bit later on, but it's thought that a lot of miracles occurred on this particular Shabbat as the Israelites were leaving Egypt. We have a special evening, not only the beautiful voice of Cantor Lutz, but the choir is here as well, which brings a lot of joy to what I know will be a very meaningful evening. We're going to begin the service with Hadlikat Nerot. I'm going to ask Phil and Phil Schneiderman and Mrs. Schneiderman, Shirley, if you'll join us. And by the way, they are awaiting at this moment the birth of, God willing, a great-grandchild at this moment. So what could be more apt? We'll ask you to rise. You'll find the blessing for the candle lighting on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. You may be seated. The words of Lichun Aranana can be found on page 12, and they're also on the song sheet that you have so that you can join us in the beautiful English lyrics. We're going to join together for the words of Psalm 95. Lichun Continue as we officially welcome Shabbat on page 20, these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful poetic words of Lecha Dodi.
Because we should get meatballs at the end of the service or something like that.
I don't know, but I'm very excited because Tali and I just spent a week at the UCLA recording studio, and we recorded 15 songs, and this is one of them.
Wow, fantastic.
So we'll have them for you soon.
So when you, even during the week, when it's not Shabbat, you can listen to Cantor Lutz and Dr. Tadmor. As a matter of fact, it's a requirement. It's part of the deal for becoming a member of Stephen Wise, but also part of the deal is singing Shalom Aleichem. You'll find it on page 24. You can be seated, please.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharei, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech, Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh.
rise for the Baruch Hu, page 28. Let's read this together. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
You'll find our introduction to Shema, a beautiful poem, on your handout. This is the sound of one This is the sound of voices too. The sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices too. This is the sound of voices three, singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of voices three. This is the sound of all of us, singing with love and the will to trust. Leave the rest behind and return to dust. This is the sound of all of us. This is the sound of all of us. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Malchuto le'olam. This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, sound of one who makes a choice. This is the sound of one voice. This is the sound of one voice.
Continue the Ve'ahavta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשופך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Every week we sing the song Micha Mocha, the song that our people sang after they crossed the Red Sea. It was an ode, if you will, to God, an appreciation for God's might. And we sing it every week, which is a reminder of how central the Exodus is to our people, to our story, to our lives. But this week we read it and chant it together just before Passover. What could be more meaningful? Micha Mocha, page 40.
Micha kamocha va'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot, o sefelet nora tehilot, o sefelet malevut Adonai himlo leolam va'ed, Adonai himlo leolam va'ed, Adonai himlo leolam va'ed.
Page 43, Ashkivenu.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai Eloheinu, Page 44, let's lean into our celebration of Shabbat B'Shamru.
Shabbat
Page 253. Our words of healing. I was talking to someone earlier, and they knew someone who was suffering. And they brought them a gift and came to comfort them. And then this person asked me, do you think that was okay? I feel like maybe I draw a little too much attention to their pain. And I said, it's never a bad thing to let someone who needs healing know that you're thinking about them. It always, always heals. It always, always, even if it can't perform, medical magic, it can perform healing of the soul. So if you're thinking of someone tonight, if you're praying for someone, let them know that you are thinking of them. And I know that we are all praying for healing for our broken, broken world. May it be repaired, and may we all contribute to that work. Misha Berach, page 253. In the evening, we chant our Amidah silently. We'll begin on page 46 together, and I'll invite you to rise and have a seat whenever you're ready. And I just want to share that I spent some time yesterday with Lori Gross Schaefer, who's the artist who not only designed the beautiful maroon Torah covers in the Ark, she also did the white ones that we use during Elul and the High Holy Days. And I didn't know this, Lori also designed the entire Ark. The whole Ark, it was her vision, and it's been there since 1999. And as she was touching all the Torah cloths yesterday, she was saying, I'm so happy that for 25 years these have been enjoyed. And they're really still in such good shape. We've got to get one of the wheels fixed on the door because it's a little heavy. But that's about it. So as we're davening our Amidah tonight, I just wanted to invite you to appreciate being able to say our prayers in this beautiful, beautiful space together, and to honor her and her contribution. So let's rise, and we'll take our Amidah moments now. page 56. Say Adonai Eloheinu ve'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava
Share a personal story that I didn't know I'd have the chance to. I had an issue, not a major issue, but I had a problem with my shoulder about 8 months ago. Nothing serious, but my doctor prescribed physical therapy. I'd never had physical therapy. I figure worst thing that can happen is it's a good massage. It's a nice thing. I was blessed because I met a physical therapist. Her name is Priska. Not only did she fix my problem, not reduce the pain, but eliminated the pain. It wasn't the typical conversation that people have with their physical therapist. She's a religious Christian. We agreed on virtually everything. The conversations were deep. They were about children. They were about life. They were about everything imaginable over the course of the, 4 or 5 months that I was there. She knew what I did for a living. She had asked me, and I told her where I was. And it turns out that her husband, Yaron Wu, is a minister. So I invited them whenever they'd like to come to services. And I always like welcoming ministers and pointing them out and saying how fortunate we are in the United States and at Stephen Wise Temple when they are present. And so with your permission, Priska and Minister Wu, would you mind standing for a moment? We are blessed to have you in our congregation this evening. Next week, my contractor will be here. No, I'm joking. Honest to goodness, I love collecting good people. You should do it. If someone is good and interesting and shares some of your views, or even if they don't, if you collect them, they will elevate your lives. That has nothing to do with my sermon tonight, but I couldn't help resist. You know, Passover Seder is a time where you're supposed to ask questions. By the way, you guys are great. You're supposed to ask questions. And one of the reasons that we ask questions is to keep the interest of the children, but frankly, it also keeps us interested. So here's the question that I want to ask tonight. And it's one undoubtedly you've heard before. If you only had a few minutes to leave your home, what would you take with you? For most of us, thank goodness, that's theoretical. But for the Israelites, it was the real deal. It's exactly what faced our people when they left Egypt. Remember how they got the call? It was in the middle of the night. And here's what the Torah says. And Pharaoh arose in the night with all his courtiers and all the Egyptians, because there was a loud cry in Egypt, for there was no house where there was not someone dead. He summoned Moses and Aaron in the night and said, "Up, depart from among my people, you and the Israelites with you. Go, worship the Lord as you had said." Wow. 400 plus years probably in the desert. Get out of here. No time to contemplate. What did they take with them? What did our people take with us? There's some clues in the Torah. If you look carefully at what happened, the Torah actually tells us what our people took with us when they left Egypt. And I think what they took with them, just as what we would take with us if we had to leave, speaks volumes. So what did they take? Well, they took unleavened bread, right? You know that. There was no time for the thing to rise. They took matzah, and so we don't want to forget that. We begin the Seder with the words halachma'anya, right? This was the bread of affliction. So that's no surprise. They took the matzah with them. Here's the second thing that they took. You remember when they crossed the Red Sea and they were dancing? You might have heard that Miriam was dancing with the timbrels. They took timbrels with them. There was no timbrel store when they were running away from the Egyptians. So they took timbrels with them, and they used them to dance, to celebrate. You know what else they took with them? They took the gold and silver with them. That it says, the Hebrew word I think is that they didn't take it from the Egyptians, they asked them. It's a shaila. Would you give us your gold and silver? Very interesting teachings about that. Suggested that the reasons they were asked, it allowed the Egyptians to some way do something nice for them. But nevertheless, they took the gold and silver with them, and you know what they did with that? Just open up chapter 32 of Exodus, they built a golden calf, right? Then they took the bones of Joseph. Joseph, a promise had been made to them. If they ever got out of Egypt, they would take his bones with them. So imagine that. That night in Egypt, everybody's getting their things together to leave, but Moses is doing something else. Moses is looking for the coffin with Joseph's bones, and he took those bones with him when they left Egypt. And by the way, you know what he did with those bones? When the Israelites received the 10 Commandments, they put the 10 Commandments in one ark, and they put the bones of Joseph in a second ark. So matzah, timbrels, gold and silver, the bones of Joseph. What was the fifth thing? I never would have guessed it, but the Torah actually uses the word. It tells us. In all the things that I just said to you, it takes a little history, but there's no history needed here. Here's what the Torah says. So God led the people round about by the way of the wilderness. By the way, we know now, more or less, that had we taken a direct route from Egypt to the Promised Land, it wouldn't have been 40 years. You know how long it would have been? 11 days. Had we taken the direct, had we not gotten lost, had God not said go here or there, they can map out the route now, 11 days. But this is what the Torah says. God led the people round about by the way of the wilderness, of the sea of reeds. Now the Israelites went up armed out of the land of Egypt. Here's the Hebrew. Hamushim alu b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. Hamushim. The Bible translates hamushim as armed. They had weapons. They had weapons. Now, Jews have not typically glorified weapons. You don't see our political leaders with a holster and a gun. But we also know that without weapons, we wouldn't survive. And Israeli soldiers and those on reserve know at any moment's notice, they have to have their weapons available to them. As I was saying to a group of parents earlier in the week as we were studying, I said, I love the line, believe in miracles, just don't depend on them. I want God to do everything God can do to protect Israel, and I want Israel to have the best damn weaponry ever created by human beings. I'm a realist. That's life. But Rabbi Jack Reamer points out, by the way, Rabbi Jack Reamer is in his late 90s, an extraordinary teacher who I came to know and studied much of what he wrote. Rabbi Reamer says, we really don't know what that word, chamushim, means, because it only appears one time in the entire Torah. Very rare for a word to appear only once. So I want to share with you Midrash. I don't usually quote Midrash. I do it when I think it really has, for me, a great insight. Midrash Tanchuma, which is a Midrash that goes back, maybe 1,800 years, something like that, has a very interesting take. It says, the Midrash says, what does the word chamushim sound like? Chamesh, the number 5 in Hebrew, right? Echad, Shtayim, Shalosh, Shabbat, Chamesh, the 5 books of Moses, right? The Midrash suggests, and this is just an explanation or an interpretation, that only 1 out of 5 Israelites actually left Egypt. The others stayed behind. As a matter of fact, one rabbi there suggested only 1 in 500 left. The others left, didn't leave. Pretty shocking when they finally had the opportunity to be free. After all those years, only 1 in 5, or even less, took the opportunity to leave with Moses. Now keep in mind, this is an interpretation, it's Midrash. But whether or not it's true, I suspect what the Midrash is trying to convey is that it is very, very hard to leave the world we know, even when it's not great. And there are countless examples in history of how people chose to stay in trouble situations rather than make a move. I don't blame them. I'm not judging them, but I know it's hard to make changes. It's not easy to leave. Think, in some of our lifetimes, of Soviet Jews. Many left as soon as they could flee the Soviet Union, a terribly oppressive regime. Many came to Israel, I think nearly 1 million. But many of them stayed behind, particularly elderly Jews, because to learn a new language, to learn a new culture is difficult, but particularly at an advanced age. The Israelites who left with Moses achieved ongoing glory. We read about them every week in the Torah, and we read about them every year, a year later, right? They are the fabric of who we are. But the ones who stayed behind, we know nothing about. Simply, we're part of the dustbin of history. So what did our ancestors take with them when they ran from Egypt in their few minutes that they had. Matzah, quick recap, timbrels, gold and silver, the bones of Joseph, and chamushim, weapons. But they also gave us something. They gave us their story, and we continue to tell this story in every generation. I mentioned at the beginning of the service that this is Shabbat HaGadol, the great Sabbath. It's the Sabbath before Passover. You may or may not know this, but traditionally rabbis didn't give sermons every week. Traditionally, they only gave 2 sermons a year, Shabbat HaGadol and on Yom Kippur. And their sermons on those days, I'm told, would often last 3 or 4 hours. So we have plenty of time now to talk. I'm not going to do that to you. Monday night is your Seder. And when we tell the story of our ancestors, of how God freed our people from Egypt, it is we who were redeemed, and it is we who are supposed to do all we can in some way to feel as though physically, to the extent possible, that we were there. And by the way, something that's been going around the internet and something I think is worth considering at your Seder table, leave an empty seat and an empty setting for the hostages in Israel. It's a powerful reminder. May they come home, and may Elijah come to the moments in our home as well. But add your own stories. Think of the courage that many of your grandparents or great-grandparents, indeed some of you, the courage that it took to leave your homes, to come to a new land, to learn a new language and a new culture here in the United States. We speak of a generation of Jews who left their homes, made Aliyah. Think of those who did that, who moved to Israel, where they had to literally fight for freedom and have to fight, unfortunately, today. I hope that our children hear these stories. I hope that they hear them on Monday night. I hope they fall in love with these stories. And I hope when the time comes for them to tell their stories, they will want to tell it to their own children. And I have a prayer that our children tell these stories in a world where people are no longer oppressed, in a world that is ultimately redeemed, and that when we chant those last 4 words that are at the back of every Haggadah that has ever been printed in the world, those last 4 words, next year in Jerusalem, L'Shana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim, God willing, when we chant those words at the close of our Seder next year, it will be a Jerusalem and an Israel at peace. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with a prayer for our country, for the United States. You'll find it on the bottom of page 258. And please join me. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen.
We'll continue with our prayer for Israel, our prayer for the hostages. You can see it on the handout that you should have, and every week we have 10 names, 10 faces. We are with you. Achenu, our brothers, Achenu, Achotenu, our sisters, Achotenu, Achenu, our brothers, Achenu, Achotenu, our sisters, Achotenu.
Page 5, you'll find the Kiddush. I always think this too reminds us every week that God took us out of Egypt. It could not be more apt this Shabbat. May I ask that you please rise and join us in the chanting of the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu b'mitzvoto v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho ve'ava u'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom tefillah l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher Bayom Ahu, Bayom Ahu, Di'er Adonai Echad, U'Shemo, U'Shemo, U'Shemo Echad.
So you should know, as hard as Ruby was pushing to close that side, there really is a broken wheel. It really is. What Counterlust was telling, obviously being truthful, and it's been broken since 1999. At least it's been broken since I've been here, which is 2004. I think it was never working. I think it was like supposed to be a joke, you know. So anyway. We have collective memory as a people, which is extraordinary. The Jews are not the only ones with collective memory, but we have a very strong collective memory. But we also have collective memory individually for those who are no longer with us, but who have touched our lives and shaped the way we live. I'm going to invite those of you who are in the middle of a Shiva period, if you've lost someone in the last week, to please rise. Those of you within the 30-day Shloshim period are invited to rise. If you're within the first year of the loss or you're observing a yahrzeit, we invite you to rise. And if it is your custom, you're invited to rise as well to join us for the Mourner's Kaddish. You'll find it on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah ve'alma divrach chirutei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei v'kol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv imru Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'mei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'almiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Imru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel. Together we say, Amen. And even though members of her family are not here this evening, Barbara Sampson, of blessed memory, who was here virtually every Shabbat, member of our synagogue for 57 years, she passed away just last week. And so there's a missing piece for all of us in this congregation, and I want to acknowledge her as well. I have the happy duty of saying thank you, and before we conclude with Oseh Shalom, to first of all of you for being here, which make the service so meaningful. For those of you who are joining us online, to Cantor Lutz, who always lends not only a beautiful voice, but a beautiful presence, and also coordinates everything that you hear musically. To the choir, wow, what a wonderful, wonderful addition you are. To Tali Tadmore, Dr. Tadmore is our music director. To our band, to the men and women, I think there's just men this week behind the scenes who make all this possible. And God willing, Oseh Shalom, may God make peace for all of us as we leave the sanctuary. Oseh Shalom.